Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a technology that's totally changing the game for how industries handle surface treatment. I'm talking about pulse laser cleaning. It's a super precise, really powerful solution for some of the toughest cleaning jobs imaginable, so let's get right into it. So let me ask you a question. Are you just tired of those old cleaning methods that are, well, just a mess? The kind of methods that risk damaging the very thing you're trying to fix? You know what I mean? Sandblasting that warps thin metal, or harsh chemicals that leave behind a ton of hazardous waste. The old ways often create just as many problems as they solve. And that really brings us to this huge contrast right here. On one side, you've got the old guard. They're messy, they're damaging, they're slow, and frankly, they can get really expensive. But on the other side, we have this incredible new solution, pulse laser cleaning. It promises to be precise, completely non-damaging, ridiculously fast, and way more cost-effective. So how on earth does this new kind of clean actually work? Let's pull back the curtain and break down the science behind it. And trust me, it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so at its very core, pulse laser cleaning is what we call a non-destructive process. It uses these incredibly short, high-frequency pulses of light to literally vaporize contaminants. We're talking rust, paint, oil, you name it, right off the surface. And here's the most crucial part. It does all of this without harming the material underneath. So how does it manage that without damaging the surface? Well, it's a really cool 5-step process that's sometimes called cold cleaning. First, the contaminant, the rust or paint, absorbs the photons from the laser. This causes it to expand really, really fast, which instantly breaks the bond holding it to the surface. Poof! The contaminant is ejected, and the surface underneath cools down immediately. No heat buildup means zero damage. Pretty smart, right? Okay, now this brings us to what is probably the single most important decision you're going to face as a buyer. You see, not all lasers are created equal. You have to understand the difference between a pulsed laser and what's called a continuous wave, or CW laser. And this table just lays it all out perfectly. Just look at the heat impact. Pulse lasers use that cold cleaning process we just talked about, so there's little to no heat. But CW lasers, they create a ton of heat, and that directly impacts safety. Pulse lasers are 100% safe for the material, but a CW laser could literally melt or warp your part. That's why for any kind of precision work, think expensive molds or delicate engine parts, pulse is the only way to go. But for, say, heavy rust on a massive steel bridge, that's a job for a big, powerful CW laser. So here's the big takeaway, the bottom line. If you are working with high-value, precision parts, where any amount of damage or change in shape is just not an option, well, the choice is crystal clear. You absolutely have to use a pulse laser. Now, all of this sounds great, but talk is one thing. The proof, as they say, is in the performance. So let's look at some hard numbers from Chihalo's own lab tests and see how this technology actually stacks up in the real world. Get a load of these numbers. The cost per square meter for manual cleaning can be $8 or even more. Sandblasting is better, maybe a couple of bucks. But pulse laser cleaning, we are talking as low as 8 cents. Why? Because you have basically zero consumables. No sand, no chemicals, no pads, just the cost of a little electricity. The savings are just astronomical. And what about time? In their lab tests for paint stripping, laser cleaning showed a mind-blowing 75% time savings compared to the old methods. Think about that. A job that used to take an hour is now done in 15 minutes. That's a massive, massive boost in productivity. And this isn't just theory, This tech is being used today in some of the most demanding industries out there. The mold industry cleans super expensive molds without even letting them cool down. Automotive, aerospace, even heritage restoration. They all rely on this technology to safely and effectively clean their most valuable and delicate parts. So, you've seen the how and the why. Now, let's get practical. This next section is all about empowering you, the buyer, to make a smart, informed investment that's right for your business. So here's your checklist. When should you choose a pulse laser? Well, if you're dealing with heat-sensitive materials like aluminum or high-value parts like turbine blades, or you need a perfect surface finish for something like painting or welding, a pulse laser is your answer. It's also the go-to choice for regulated industries where you just can't use chemicals or create a bunch of waste. And look, let's be real for a second, because a pulse laser is not for everything. If your job is cleaning miles of rusty steel on a bridge, it's just too slow, you're way better off with a big CW laser. And honestly, if your budget is under $3,000,
the quality of the pulse laser source just isn't going to be good enough to give you those true non-destructive results.
All right, let's talk about the 4 most common mistakes buyers make, just so you can avoid them. Mistake number 1, choosing a machine with too little power just to save a few bucks up front. A job that takes a 200-watt machine 3 hours might take a 100-watt machine 8 hours. Your hidden labor costs are going to gobble up those initial savings in no time.
Mistake number 2 is the exact opposite, buying way more power than you actually need, thinking you're planning for the future. You're going to pay a lot more upfront, and you'll have higher energy costs for a machine that's not even being used to its full potential. Our advice? Buy for the job you have right now.
Okay, the third mistake is a sneaky one, ignoring something called the duty cycle. A lot of air-cooled machines just can't run continuously for a full 8-hour shift. If it has a 50% duty cycle, that means you're only getting 4 hours of work done. For continuous all-day work, you really need to look at a water-cooled system. And finally, mistake number 4, not testing your actual parts first. Just assuming a certain power level is going to work for your specific contaminant on your specific material, that can be a very, very expensive mistake. You have to verify the performance on your parts before you pull the trigger. This commitment to educating the customer, it really comes from the top. As Dawn Huang, the founder of Chihalo, puts it, her whole mission is to turn all those complex technical specs into guides that buyers can actually use to make the right call. Which brings us to the final and most important takeaway. The absolute best way to avoid all these mistakes and see the proof with your own 2 eyes is to test your own materials. Chihalo actually offers a free, no-obligation cleaning test. You can send them your parts, they'll clean them, record the whole process, and you can see the results for yourself. It's truly the surest way to know if this amazing technology is right for you.